It is Thursday, May 29th, 2025, and President Trump teaching a lesson to the most disrespectful White House reporter you've ever seen, asking Trump in the Oval Office about the taco trade. Unbelievable. Trump handling this like a boss. We're going to show you also Assistant Director of the FBI, Dan Bongino, announcing they have found video of Epstein in the cell block moments before the act. Yes, there's video. How in the world is there video and we're just now learning about it? And Netanyahu backing down. Trump confirming he told Netanyahu, back the F off. And more stories as well from around the country. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel. And consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates. So President Trump announcing Liberation Day on April 5th, the day when he unveiled his reciprocal tariff policy, the big tariffs, the ones that slap those huge levies on almost every country on the planet, intended to match their tariff rates on us. Those reciprocal tariffs went into effect for like a day before they got paused for 90 days, which means they're supposed to go back into effect on July 8th on the countries who have yet to strike a deal with us. The goal of all of this is to reset the global trading system, bring about real free trade around the world. The first president that's really attempting to do this. So far, Trump signed trade deals with the UK and with India. Other countries such as Cambodia, Israel, Taiwan, Vietnam, Argentina have lowered their U.S. tariffs to zero in spirit of good faith negotiations. China and the EU also in active negotiation with Trump's trade team. This is good news for the United States, great news for the working class, for working class Americans, people who work in auto plants and in steel mills. It's why the largest auto unions in the country have all come out in full support of Trump's trade policy and his tariffs. So why then is legacy media determined to see it fail, rooting for these negotiations to fail? American reporters working for American corporate media, working their tails off to create false narratives that Trump doesn't know what he's doing, that he's a flip-flopper, and every day he's either pausing tariffs or reimposing them when they know he's doing that as part of the negotiation process. If he hears a country is slow-walking talks or playing hardball during negotiation, Trump ratchets the tariffs back up. If they're working in good faith to make a deal, he may lower the tariffs back down temporarily. That's what he's doing, and it makes perfect sense. These reporters know this. These media companies know this, so you can't make up what happened yesterday when the most disrespectful White House reporter decides to ask the president about the taco trade in his Oval Office press conference. The taco trade meaning Trump always chickens out. Watch Trump go to town on this lady.
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, and then I chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I said down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country, and because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till June 9. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. You call that chickening out? Because we have $14 trillion now invested, committed to investing when Biden didn't have practically anything. This country was dying. You know, we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. I went to Saudi Arabia. The king told me. He said, you got the hottest we have the hottest country in the world right now. 6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think it was going to survive, and you ask a nasty question like that. It's called negotiation. You set a number, And if you go down, if I set a number at a ridiculous high number and I go down a little bit, a little bit, they want me to hold that number, 145% tariff. Even I said, man, that really got up. You know how it got? Because of fentanyl and many other things, and you added it up. I said, where are we now? We're at 145%. I said, whoa, that's high. That's high. They were doing no business whatsoever, and they were having a lot of problems. We were very nice to China. I don't know if they're going to be nice to us, but we were very nice to China. And in many ways, I think we really helped China tremendously because, they were having great difficulty because we were basically going cold turkey with China. We were doing no business because of the tariff, because it was so high. But I knew that. But don't ever say what you said. That's a nasty question. Go ahead.
And if you don't have people there who understand this stuff, Dems in the media will just continue to create these false narratives. Yesterday on CNN, the entire panel was piggybacking on this press conference on this taco trade question, claiming Trump's destroying the U.S. economy. If it wasn't for Kevin O'Leary, nobody would have corrected the record, even the anchor, just going along with it, even pushing back on Kevin O'Leary when he brought facts to this debate, to this panel, bringing a blowtorch full of facts. Check this out, watch.
Well, here's the question. What percentage of job loss is fine and okay when the president of the United States, when the president of the United States,
we're almost at full employment. What are you talking about? There's no job loss.
Guys, one at a time. One at a time.
There's no job loss in America.
Hold on a second.
What are you talking about?
Let me ask a question.
We're at full
employment. Is the claim that there have been absolutely no jobs lost because of the disruptions created by the tariff?
Have you not looked at the unemployment numbers? You better read the numbers.
No, I'm asking a question. It's
we're
not
almost
saying
at full
anything.
employment. We're almost at full. What are you talking about?
That's what Trump was handed.
That's an evasion.
That's what he was handed. He's doing
the economy's on fire.
He's doing
what are you talking about?
To the American economy. Nobody is taking us.
What is this job loss? The economy is on fire.
The economy is doing okay.
By Wall Street.
Guys, one at a time,
damage
please.
to the American brand. We are a laughing stock. We're a laughing stock in Europe, a laughing stock in Asia. If you're inside the Trump bubble and you're on Twitter with all the bros, it hits hard. It's really good.
That's not what the numbers say. The number one destination for invested capital on earth is still over 50% in America. Tonight, right now. So I don't know what you're talking about. We're a laughing stock. The money pours in. Trillions of dollars comes to America.
Kevin.
Why? Best place to invest on earth.
Largest
Why?
consumer economy.
I think, Kevin, you're making a great.
One second.
You're making a great argument for why.
Because I'm right.
In another story, there is video footage from within Epstein's cell block that the American public is just learning about today. How is that possible? We were told for years that none of the cameras were operational. They were all shut off during the multi-hour window when Epstein apparently offed himself. Assistant Director of the FBI, Dan Bongino, coming out this morning and spilling the beans that there is actually video footage. He's seen the video. It doesn't show the actual act, he said, but it proves that he was the only person there, that nobody else could have done this. That's what he says, because he got a lot of pushback, a lot of heat for saying that Epstein did, in fact, take his own life, and that we'll soon see this footage. They are putting the footage out. Watch.
Those two cases obviously are of significant public interest. I'm just telling you what we see in the file. I just want to be crystal clear on this. I am not asking anyone to believe me. I'm telling you what's there and what isn't.
Right.
There is nothing in the file at this point on the Epstein case, and there's going to be a disclosure on this coming shortly. We are working through there is video. That is something the public does not.
There's video of him killing himself.
No, not the actual act, but the entire MCC Bay, it was only one camera. There's video that when you look at the video, and we will release, that's what's taken a while on this, we are working on cleaning it up to make sure you have an enhanced, and we're going to give the original so you don't think there were any shenanigans. You're going to see there's no one there but him.
Right.
There's just nobody there. So I say to people all the time, if you have a tip, let us know. But there's no DNA, there's no audio, there's no fingerprints, there's no suspects, there's no accomplices, there's no tips, there is nothing. If you have it, I'm happy to see it. There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
And what nobody ever asks in these interviews to both Dan Bongino and Kash Patel is fine. if he did in fact off himself, who else was involved to make that happen? Did Epstein pay off the guards to give him the means to do it? Did he pay off the guards to shut down the cameras? Was someone else involved pushing him to do it? Brett Baer asking Cash yesterday about the Epstein files, asking him, you talk about this wave of transparency, Cash, but what about the Epstein files? It seems, why does it seem like you're slow walking their release? Good question. And you can tell in Cash's reaction, this is true. There is a moment right after the question where you could see he's caught off guard. There's something in those documents, even Cash knows, can't be released, can't be talked about, can't even be thought about. Watch this and let me know what you think.
Listening to conspiracy theories because those in positions of leadership fail to tell the American public the truth.
But there is a lot of conspiracy theories out there.
There are.
The Epstein thing, you dealt with Maria, you said, as far as you know, he killed himself.
I'm telling you, he killed himself.
The other thing on the internet is the Epstein files. What's the answer to that?
The answer to that is the same as everything else. I'm not going to withhold information from the American public ever. But I'm also not going to rush to get it out there in a format in which they can't rely on it. So on the Epstein matter or any other matters, we are diligently working on that. And it takes time to go through years of investigations, years of political maneuvering, and years of cover-up to get the American people what they deserve. And that's what I'm going to give them on everything.
Yeah. And if somebody says, how long is that going to take? You know, we always see investigations in Washington that end up in blue ribbon commissions, and it doesn't seem like anything comes from it. Do you think actual prosecutions will come from some of this stuff?
I think from some of this stuff, when we go back and look at things like the pipe bomber case, the cocaine in the White House, January 6th, and Crossfire Hurricane, the prosecutorial decisions will lay at the Department of Justice. But we are rigorously investigating them, and I think we've developed some great leads. And I also think we're not going to wait for any blue ribbon commissions. That's up to Congress. If they want to do that, that's totally fine. They're a coordinate branch of government. But we've got answers coming on all these matters.
You promise?
I do.
In another story, President Trump telling Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to stand the F down. No, don't even think about bombing Iran's nuclear sites. We are in the middle of positive negotiations. All you would do is blow up the chance at a deal. This is a very sensitive story, a very sensitive topic. Huge political and monetary interests are at stake here. Anything about curtailing Israel comes with major repercussions for any American politician, even the President of the United States, even Donald Trump. So, yes, this wasn't easy for him to admit. Watch.
Mr. President, just back on Iran, did you warn Prime Minister Netanyahu against taking some sort of actions that could disrupt the talks there in a phone call last week?
Well, I'd like to be honest. Yes, I did. Next question, please.
Mr. President, just last on sanctions.
I did, yeah.
If Senate Republicans want to push
It's not a warning. I said I don't think it's appropriate.
What exactly did you tell him? Did you
I just said I don't think it's appropriate. We're having very good discussions with him, and I said I don't think it's appropriate right now. Because if we can settle it with a very strong document, very strong, with inspections and no trust. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust anybody. So no trust. I want it very strong where we can go in with inspectors, we can take whatever we want, we can blow up whatever we want, but nobody getting killed. We can blow up a lab, but nobody's going to be in the lab, as opposed to everybody being in the lab and blowing it up, right? Two ways of doing it. Yeah, I told him this would be inappropriate to do right now because we're very close to a solution. Now, that could change at any moment, could change with a phone call. But right now, I think they want to make a deal, and if we can make a deal, save a lot of lives.
Trump reportedly tired of Benjamin Netanyahu, getting sick of him, that he's way too aggressive, way too hawkish in escalating the war in Gaza and even expanding into Iran. Going to war with Iran is the last thing Donald Trump wants. There is no way he signs off on a bombing campaign against Iran. If it were to happen, it would be done by the Israelis behind Trump's back, without his blessing. Normally, in any other administration, if they were to do this, they would fool the U.S. administration into going along with it, doing it, and then the U.S. administration, the Biden administration, Obama administration, whoever, a Republican administration, would be embarrassed to admit they weren't aware it was happening or that Israel didn't give them a heads up. But Trump's not like that. Trump would just come out and tell the truth that we had nothing to do with this. Israel, you are on your own. Hawkish conservative media in the States not happy with President Trump on this. People like Ben Shapiro ripping into Trump yesterday. What a complete joke. Watch.
So a kind of shocking story from Axios yesterday emerged that suggested that President Trump had cautioned Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in a phone call last week not to take any action that could jeopardize negotiations between the United States and Iran on a new nuclear deal. Okay, so first of all, I have a question. Israel is not involved in those negotiations. So why should Israel hold off? Real question. Israel is the country most under threat from Iran, not the United States. Okay, so if we were going to take the full-scale J.D. Vance isolationist realist position, shouldn't the United States just sort of wash its hands and walk away and say whatever happens, happens? But I notice that's not what's happening. Instead, these so-called restrainers inside the administration, they're not attempting to restrain the United States, which is already restrained. I promise you, my 100% certitude is that President Trump is not going to authorize a bombing raid on the Iranian nuclear facilities. Whether or not we should, I don't think it's going to happen. Okay, that's just the reality. So why is the restrainer team inside the Trump administration trying to stop Israel from doing that thing? Why? With what bad deal? Iran keeps saying openly they will not stop enrichment. And yet, the United States is so desperate for a deal, what, for the sake of a deal?
Let me know what you think about this. Would you support Trump getting on board, striking Iranian nuclear sites, or do you think that would mark the end of the Trump administration, as there's no strike like that wouldn't blow up into a major war? Let me know what you think about that in the comments. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.